o primeiro e novo Who Brasil no ar. Nosso, olha aí quem tá com a gente.
We have to go back.
We have to go back. Pra onde a gente tem que voltar?
Run for your life.
Vamos lá, pra onde a gente tem que voltar? Vocês estão vendo aqui atrás o pessoal? Isso é o que sobrou do evento do Mark Gatiss aqui na Livraria Cultura do...
Shopping Guatemi.
Shopping Guatemi, shopping de rico, shopping legal. A gente passou o dia aqui, tá desde meio-dia, já vai dar 9 horas da noite. E vocês viram o Terence passando aqui, ele trouxe a tarde pra gente poder voltar pro meio-dia de hoje e mostrar pra vocês como foi o evento. E é isso aí, vamos lá! Mayara, a gente viu que você tá de cosplay de Dalek. Por que você escolheu esse personagem e quanto tempo você levou pra fazer o cosplay?
Eu sempre gostei muito do Dalek, foi o meu vilão favorito. E eu sempre tive vontade de fazer tipo cosplay. E eu demorei mais ou menos 3, 4 dias pra fazer.
Você tá inaugurando ele hoje?
Isso, e eu não sei costurar e aí deu nisso.
Mark, we love you e
So much.
I'm a huge fan of you. I'm very happy to be here and I don't know, that's it.
We love Doctor Who and Sherlock so much.
Yeah.
Eu amo você, sou uma grande pessoa. Espero realmente que você esteja adorando o Brasil e que adore todo mundo aqui.
Mark is the executive producer and co-creator of drama Sherlock, starring Benedict Cumberbatch! And Mary Freeman! In the series, he also plays Sherlock's brother, Mycroft! Sherlock has seen unprecedented success across the globe, with Series 3 in the UK announced as the most watched drama on British television in a decade.
Like Stephen Moffat. He's one of the few writers who have written episodes for the 3 Doctors of the new generation of Doctor Who. Mark has also written Mark has also written an episode of 90 minutes on the adventures of space and time that tell the stories of 50 years of Doctor Who. I can see that an adventure in space and time, by going back to the origins of Doctor Who, speak very strongly about legacy and how a person's action can influence a generation to come. What kind of legacy do you think your work on television will leave behind?
Evil. Unhappiness. Mischief. Oh well, that's not for me to say. I just think I've always tried to make the things that I'd like to watch myself. I put an awful lot of passion into them, and I'm very lucky to be in a position to be able to do that. And that to me is all the legacy you can ever. All the advertising you ever need to do is good work. Someone once told me, and I think that's very true. So if I leave any kind of legacy when I die, when I'm 188, then it'll be that. I think it's just, I just want to do good stuff, and people like it, and that's wonderful.
Adaptation along with, of course, Stephen Moffat.
I've not seen it. Is it any good? Well, Stephen and I were working on Doctor Who, We've been friends for years, and we always ended up getting the same train together. And we talked about the other things that we liked, especially Sherlock Holmes, and how much we loved the Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce films from the 40s, which updated the stories from the Victorian era to the Second World War. And we just thought we should do that again. And a big thing was that in the original first story, Dr. Watson is invalided out of the war in Afghanistan and sent home. And there was another war in Afghanistan happening, essentially the same war. And the parallel was just so clear. It was like, well, that was a wonderful way into it. And then after that, it was really quite straightforward, because Sherlock is such a huge, recognised figure across the world that it was a very easy sell, especially because it wasn't in period costume, it was a lot cheaper.
As a writer, what's your theme or setting or age, your favorite of writing?
Theme or age?
Yeah, theme or age or setting.
Well, I like doing things in the past. I like history, which I do a lot of in Doctor Who. And I suppose my favourite era is the Edwardian era, turn of the century. I like that. Theme, I don't know.
Perhaps terror.
Terror.
I don't know.
Bad things happening. Funny and terrible things. No, actually, you're right. My favourite things are ghost stories of anything. I love ghost stories. So bringing that aspect into almost everything is the most fun. I've just written and directed a ghost story for BBC, which I love doing. So I'm hoping to do some more of those.
How do you pick up the scripts from Doctor Who episodes and also Sherlock? And if you already take an idea from the fan to use in the script, like you wrote a script for Sherlock or Doctor Who, using an idea that a fan gave you in an event like this?
I'm not allowed to, because there is a very healthy and growing industry in people suing writers. I know J.K. Rowling. I don't know her. I know that J.K. Rowling has someone, when she does book signings, someone who specifically takes things off people and then gives them back at the end of the evening, because she was taken to court because someone said that she'd copied something for Harry Potter, and you can't do that, because if someone has any idea and then 10 years later you think of something similar, they can always say you stole that from me. So unfortunately that doesn't work. And then in terms of picking scripts with Doctor Who, it either comes from me or from Stephen will ask me to do one about a certain thing, and then with Sherlock we decide between us what the shape of the 3 episodes is going to be, and then who's the best fit for it, really. I think I might do one about an overcrowded bookshop in Sao Paulo.
It's a great idea. Another one about Sherlock is from Camila Lins. The question is, how was Molly who perfected Sherlock to make him different than ACD's original?
That's a very good question.
What can we expect from her? What can we expect from her and her relationship with Sherlock in the next series?
Oh, well, Molly is a character who's not in the original stories, and she was just going to be a one-scene character, but Luke really, who plays the part, was so good, we immediately started thinking of new stuff for her. And she's affected Sherlock because he sort of doesn't really think about her. She's just someone who hands him a cup of coffee every night. He obviously doesn't understand how she feels about it.
She's kind of part of the scenario.
She's like the wall paint.
Yes.
But then when it comes to the crunch, she's one of the few people he can actually rely on. And having really helped him out, he's never going to forget that. But it doesn't mean he's suddenly going to propose to her. I think he's just going to regard her as a piece of moving wallpaper.
What do you think or expect Peter Capaldi will bring for the new, for his new role as
Scottishness.
do you think he'll bring McCoy back? With the accent.
He's the third Scottish Doctor, isn't he? That's amazing. I just thought of that.
The other one is right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Peter will bring his own thing to it, of course. He's obviously, he has a different energy. Matt and David both are very young and very human doctors, very accessible doctors, and I think Peter wants to make the Doctor a bit less approachable and more mysterious again. Probably slightly grumpier, I think. But that's so exciting. It's like having a new box of toys to play with, because you sort of think you know how the Doctor would react in any given situation, and every time a Doctor changes, the rules change. So he's going to be absolutely amazing. I've seen a little of his first episode. He's absolutely fantastic.
Danilo Giacometti is here. What do you consider your best idea for a Sherlock episode?
For a Sherlock episode?
Yeah.
Best idea. The next one. I don't know. Oh yeah. Very flattering on my waistline. Thank you. I don't know. I mean, the hardest things are coming up with the deductions. They're fiendishly difficult. I was very proud of the ones I did for Hand of the Baskervilles, because they took a lot of working out. That was a good day. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting just to think about what we might do next.
It's a good one because about the Time Lords. Considering the Time Lords are back, would it be able or possible for the Doctor to travel between parallel universes? And if so, would it be possible to us to have a Who crossover, or even a return, or even the return of Rose and the Meta Crisis Doctor?
Well, picture, if you will. Imagine this. Sherlock walks into a room, and on the other side of the room is the Doctor. Imagine that. Imagine the, I don't know, 5 minutes of exquisitely scripted, very funny banter between them. Then what? Then you'd never have a question like this to ask again, and everyone would be very disappointed. Also, if you want to see it, someone's done it on YouTube. It's very good. So there's really no need to do it. But to be serious, obviously they're two totally different shows. There's no conceivable way in which it would happen. And I've never, personally, as a big fan of lots of things, I've never understood why people want to bring things together like that. I've never understood why you want to put. Why would you want to put the TARDIS on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise, or why Hercule Poirot would meet Miss Marple? I don't understand it. So I would say no. And the return of Rose and the Meta Crisis Doctor. I just did this question actually in the press conference. First of all, I don't think it would be very interesting, because it would just be two human people having a nice life together, which is not the source of most drama. Secondly, David is finished being the Doctor, and I don't imagine he has any interest in playing someone who's nearly the Doctor, and Billy has finished with Doctor Who, so unless you know something that their agents don't, I don't think they're probably going to do such.
Next question.
So sentimental!
Enjoyed filming in Sherlock, and why?
The scene I had with Martin in the cafe at the end of Scandal in Belgravia. 2 reasons. The first time we did it, we had to stop because there were riots in London, and it was very strange time, and we were filming, and we had rain, artificial rain coming down outside, and the rain suddenly stopped, and a policeman came in and just went, "Run!" So we ran. It was a very strange time. So we didn't start that scene again for about another 2 months. We had to be rescheduled. But then when we finally came to do it, I just really liked that scene. I love the idea of them having this little thing before they decide whether to tell Sherlock the truth. And that's when we first hear the thing of that he wanted to be a pirate when he was little and things like that. So, I'm very fond of that scene. What is that? What? Chocolate TARDIS? Is it bigger on the inside? I will send one of my people. Would someone... Thank you.
Oh, damn it, God. Damn it, God.
It's good to be the king.
Depois dessa visita, você considera trazer Sherlock ou Dr. Who para Comic Con Experience?
Well, I don't know. I hope so. It depends entirely on how my visit goes down. And if everyone is very good, then we might keep it. I'm sure everyone would love to come. I mean, who would want to come here?
Você se identifica com Mycroft de alguma forma?
Yeah. A superb dress then. Very nice bottom. No, I don't really. He's very, very cold person, and I'm not. I think I'm very fond of the character, but no, I don't think I do. I don't find myself. I wish I had some of his power. Although I can make people go get chocolate for me, so that's a small step on the road to power.
Qual o seu conto favorito de Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
Oh, my favourite is the Bruce Partington plans, which I used a bit of in The Great Game. I also love the Red-Headed League very much. Like to do that. I love it. It's a very odd and unusual story called The Yellow Face, which I've always liked. I love lots of them, almost all of them, really. I'm very fond of the quieter, smaller ones. There's a beautiful story called The Case of Identity, which is the second or third of the short stories, I think. And I've used little bits of that in a couple of episodes because it's just a bit about someone oscillating on the pavement. Always means a love affair. That's from that. And, it's a very simple story about a woman whose stepfather wants her to remain unmarried so he can keep her money, and she's so short-sighted she can't tell that her fiance is him. It's quite difficult to do on the screen, but I used a little bit of it in The Empty Hearse, Miss Sutherland. That's one of my favourites actually. The Blue Carbuncle I love, The Christmas Story. Well, most of them, yes. But the Bruce Partington plans is always, I love that one. It's fantastic. It's got submarine plans. It's got the Tube. I love the London Underground. It's got a brilliant mystery. A man found dead on the lines, and Sherlock works out that he was actually on top of the train, which is fantastic. Mycroft's in it. It's great.
What was it like to play John Dashwood in Sense and Sensibility?
Oh.
And will the Doctor meet Jane Austen on the next season?
Well, it was lovely doing Sense and Sensibility. I don't know if anyone's seen Sense and Sensibility. Has it been on here?
Yes.
I think on DVD. Yes.
I have a lovely ginger wig in it. And a little ginger son as well, actually. It was great. It was a very lavish and beautiful BBC drama. With a wonderful cast. I had a great time. The Doctor meets Jane Austen. Well, the Doctor's been a lot of writers, actually. It's interesting. One of the things which the new series of Doctor Who sort of invented is the idea of a celebrity historical. So, Charles Dickens, Agatha Christie, Winston Churchill, Shakespeare. There's 3 writers there. So I think Jane Austen stands quite a good chance, actually. But I'm not quite sure what the adventure would be. Maybe an alien posing as Mr. Darcy. He dives into a pond and his real skin comes off. Oh, good.
That's a good plot twist, huh?
Dear Mr. Gatiss, I have been a fan of you and your work since League of Gentlemen. I admire you as a producer, actor, and writer. My question is, how
But not as a human being.
My question is, how does it feel to write and act on a show so popular as Sherlock? And can you tell us some tips for the young writers present here? Yeah, is that it? Thanks. There's a thanks.
It feels awful. No, it's fantastic, of course it is. It's a privilege, to say, to be involved with a show like Doctor Who, which has always been my favourite show since I was a kid, and Sherlock Holmes, which I've always adored. To be so successful is a fantastic privilege and a joy. So, you know, I never stop pinching myself, really. And my advice to young writers is, get out of my way! I think the only advice I ever really give to people is to keep at it. It's very easy to get distracted because everyone has to earn a living. It's very easy to get downhearted because everyone gets rejected. I spent years and years and years and years before the League of Gentlemen really took off and opened doors to everything. So it's very easy to get downhearted. But if you believe in what you're doing and you put your heart and soul into it, I think it will get through eventually.
Which author do you find more difficult to adapt to? Conan Doyle or Agatha Christie? And why?
Well, I've done 3 Poirot episodes. I love Agatha Christie. They were all quite late books. I never got the chance to do one of the really, really great ones. So I think, and therefore I had to change quite a lot because they were not as well constructed as some of the earlier ones. But I think the problem a lot of people sometimes do when they're adapting anything is for some reason is to jettison what the author intended. And as a writer, obviously, I have a great deal of respect for other writers. So I often find it quite odd. I remember in the first Agatha Christie I did, Cat Among the Pigeons, the brilliant idea about it is there are two murderers. And I remember the producer saying, I want to get rid of that. And I said, that's the best idea, isn't it? So I think it's very important to respect the original author's intentions. When you're adapting something, obviously sometimes you have to be much more free with it. And with Conan Doyle, obviously we've, from the beginning, taken a very specific attitude towards the stories. We rarely adapt them as they are. They're sometimes the framework for the whole story, or sometimes it's a tiny part of it. And other times a larger part. So, but I think the important thing always is to respect what the author had in mind and intended, even if you end up going in a quite different direction. Maybe Agatha Christie. Oh, there's a wonderful book called Crooked House. Do you know that? That's not Poirot or Miss Marple. It's a very clever book. I think probably the ABC Murders. That's Agatha Christie. I'll tell you a story about it. Billy Wilder, the great Austrian director who made The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, he made an adaptation of Witness for the Prosecution in the 50s. And an interviewer said to him, why are you doing Agatha Christie? And he said, Agatha Christie's characters, her dialogue I could write it in an afternoon, but her plots are like fucking ball bearings. That's true. Agatha Christie had more great ideas than anyone who's ever written. She was amazing. She puts ideas in her short stories, which she could have made into incredible novels. She just had one after the other, incredible ones. The gentleman's asking, in Invention of Space and Time, when everything went wrong, what went right to make Doctor Who what it is? I think it's partly that it's just a fantastic idea, but mostly it was the hard work of all those people at the original time, and there were many more than I could put in that story who were behind it. But I think in the end, what's wonderful about it is that it's a story that happens every now and then. It's the little show that could. No one really expected much of it, and then when it was a massive success, they were all very keen to take credit for it. But it's essentially just it's the same thing. It's passion, it's hard work, and it's the willingness to keep pushing on.
The classic series, the Doctor sometimes had adventures on Gallifrey. I know the Time Lords are missing, but if you could ever write an episode, where that happens, and how would it be like?
Well, for me personally, the brilliant thing about The Deadly Assassin, which is the one on Gallifrey, the first one, is because it was never done before, really, and subsequently, every time you go back to it, it starts to make the Time Lords a bit too domesticated. Anyway, that's why Russell T Davies came up with the whole idea of the Doctor being the last one. Is that eventually, if you see them so often, they become a bit like a bunch of MPs. Whereas if you talk about them as this amazing, powerful force, they're much more exciting to talk about in the abstract. So I don't know if I would want to do one on Gallifrey. I mean, I think the way that they were represented in The End of Time and The Day of the Doctor is very exciting because we're seeing them in a crisis, and they're both trying to come up with different ways of saving themselves. But I suppose if the Doctor ever does find Gallifrey, then we might find out. Who knows when that will be.
When I first watched the studying thing and Mycroft appeared, I thought he was Moriarty.
Exactly!
So, if you were cast to play Moriarty instead of Mycroft, what would differ from Andrew's performance? What would you change? By the way, love you.
It wouldn't be as good. It'd probably be less Irish, taller, but the same suit. No, obviously, I mean, we did that deliberately so that we made it look like Mycroft was Moriarty, and most people fell for it. So that's the reason I'm not credited in those episodes, is because the publicity goes out in advance and it would save. So I just didn't appear. But I know what I do. I mean, the brilliant thing about Andrew is that he came in to read and he was just so extraordinary and different, and we just knew immediately that was the way we wanted to go with it. And you know, again, it's made him famous, and he loves the show, and he's fantastic in it.
Do you think it's easier to write a character that is based on a book, or that is based on a work of another actor? Like the Doctor is based on the work of 50 years.
Well, yes. If you're adapting something, it's obviously you've got a template, which is very helpful. With the Doctor is always the Doctor, so it depends on which aspect of his personality you're writing for. But you know it's the hero to a greater or lesser extent. It's essentially the same show as it ever was. It's just sort of changed over the years in different ways. But obviously, writing for a new Doctor, you have to. You end up sort of first writing a sort of default Doctor. And then what I always do as an actor is to listen to people talking and get the rhythms of their speech and sort of adapt the character in that way. And then as new scripts come in and you start to see bits of the performance, then you can start making it more specific. Hello.
Now that you have achieved so much success, what is your goal as an artist?
How do you do that without moving your lips? What's my goal? Well, there's a few. There's some parts I'd like to play, which I haven't. I'd love to play Jacob Marley in A Christmas Carol. That's my favourite story. I keep saying that, no one ever asks me. And I'd love to, well, just carry on doing what I'm doing, to be honest. I mean, I'm blessed of doing. The two principal things I'm doing are two of the things I've always loved the most. And if you can make what you love into your job, then you're all right. And there are lots of things lots of books I'd like to adapt, lots of things. I've just directed a ghost story, and I'd like to do more directing. I really enjoy that. So Well, we'll see.
How did you define the ways and manners of Menenius in Coriolanus?
The character, well, it's the play I just did with Tom Hiddleston. I thought that might help. Well, he's sort of uncle-like figure to Coriolanus. So obviously there's a lot in the Shakespeare. But I wanted to make it very. Tom is younger than most Coriolanuses are, so in a way everybody was a lot younger. Menenius is usually much older. So I tried to make it more of a sort of uncle-like figure. And then it did sort of develop, really. A lot of it was the costume, which I'm always very keen on. And I had this amazing thing I call the scardigan, which is a cardigan with a scarf attached, which I'm going to market. That's my next big thing, actually. I'm going into knitwear. But the whole thing was a fantastic experience, actually. And doing the live version, which was broadcast to cinemas, was really exciting. It was an amazing thing. In fact, I got a message from David Tennant that night saying he was watching it in Vancouver, and it was an incredible thing to think that it was going out all over the world like that.
Bom, a gente teve uma ótima aventura pelo tempo e espaço com o nosso doutor favorito aqui.
Hello, guys!
E espero que vocês tenham gostado e fiquem ligados no whobrasil.com.br com os melhores vídeos sobre a série.
Até a próxima!